smoke within, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Barack Obama in the last few days seems to be obsessed with Senator Ted Cruz. Yesterday called him, in essence, un-American. And today he said this. Cut 3, go.
If there are concrete, actual suggestions to enhance this extraordinary screening process that's already in place, we're welcome. We're open to hearing actual ideas, but that's not really what's been going on in this debate. When candidates say we wouldn't admit 3-year-old orphans, that's political posturing. When individuals say that we should have a religious test and that only Christians, proven Christians, should be admitted, that's offensive and contrary to American values.
That's an attack on you, Senator Ted Cruz. How are you, sir?
I am doing terrific, Mark. It's always great to be with you.
Well, even in the Philippines, you're on his mind. May I ask you a question? I would like you to respond to this, but first, how many Christian majority countries are there in the Middle East?
Christian majority countries? I'm not aware of a single one.
How many Muslim majority? Most of them, right?
Just about all of them except for Israel.
So where can Christians go? Isn't that part of the problem?
That is exactly right, and not only that, Mark. Apparently President Obama has a problem with acknowledging who's subject to genocide. Right now, ISIS is directing genocide. They are crucifying Christians. They're beheading Christians, and it is U.S. immigration law, existing statutes, that give a special focus on people facing religious persecutions, and indeed, U.S. statute also has targeted, and Obama has signed this, Jews and evangelical Christians that are being persecuted in certain countries. That is existing law. It's called the Lautenberg Amendment. It was put in place by a Democratic senator, Frank Lautenberg from New Jersey, and Barack Obama signed it into law. That's existing law. And listen, more fundamentally, the president's lashing out and attacking me, first from Turkey, then from Manila, on this, is all a manifestation of the fact that he refuses to acknowledge radical Islamic terrorism. He refuses to say those words, so he cannot distinguish between radical Islamic terrorists, ISIS terrorists, and Christians who are being persecuted. And there's a world of difference.
You know, Senator, it amazes me how he's willing to call out certain Christians. He'll use the word in Christianity, and he'll use the word, but he won't use the word Islam or Muslim. What is that all about?
You are exactly right. And so for 2 days in a row, President Obama has insulted me as un-American and offensive. Now, mind you, he's called me un-American while standing on foreign soil. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to take cheap shots when there's nobody there to respond. But I responded today and said, listen, if he wants to insult me, I challenge the president to come insult me to my face. Let's have a debate one-on-one on his Syrian refugee policy. He went on in that clip you were playing to make fun of all the Republicans and say they're scared of reporters, scared of hard questions. Well, if he is so certain that his refugee policy is right for Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton to bring tens of thousands of Syrian Muslim refugees when his administration has no way of vetting to determine if they're ISIS terrorists, let's have a debate. Let's have it in front of the American people. And I'm confident where the American people will be, and apparently he thinks all of us are un-American if we don't agree with bringing in refugees who could pose a serious terrorist threat.
Now, Senator Cruz, he keeps talking about this spectacular vetting process we have. James Comey, the FBI director, at a hearing on October 21, 2015. Here's what James Comey said just a few weeks about the spectacular vetting process for Syrian refugees. Cut 1, Mr. Producer, go.
I think that's the challenge we're all talking about, is that we can only query against that which we have collected. And so if someone has never made a ripple in the pond in Syria in a way that would get their identity or their interests reflected in our database, we can query our database till the cows come home, but we're not going to. There will be nothing show up because we have no record on that person. That's what Assistant Director Steinbach was talking about. You can only query what you've collected, And with respect to Iraqi refugees, we had far more in our databases because of our country's work there for a decade. This is a different situation.
This is a different situation. So may I ask you, Senator Cruz, who's telling the truth, the FBI director or Barack Obama?
The FBI director is absolutely telling the truth. And in fact, I just came a couple of hours ago from a classified briefing that the senior intelligence and defense officials of the Obama administration gave us on the Paris terror attacks, and much of the conversation focused on the Syrian refugees. And I will tell you, everything the administration said in the classified briefing is exactly consistent with what Director Comey just said, which is they have no idea of the backgrounds of these Syrian Muslim refugees. They have no information. They have nothing to query the database against because they don't know who's part of ISIS and who's not. You know, if you look at the refugees that are streaming into Europe right now, one study said 77% of those refugees are young males. That is a very unusual demographic for refugees. We know that at least one of the terrorists in Paris who committed these horrific acts of murder came through the refugee program into Europe. And ISIS has made abundantly clear that they intend to carry out terror attacks in the United States just like this Paris attack, to kill hundreds, or if they have their druthers, thousands of Americans. And for the president, listen, he's driven by political correctness and party ideology. He will not even acknowledge the Islamic State as Islamic. And instead, he insists that we've got to take these refugees. Now, Mark, I'll tell you, I said several months ago we shouldn't be allowing these refugees that are a threat to our national security. At the time, that was ridiculed as being a position that was out there. I can tell you, in the past week, some 30 governors, both Republicans and Democrats, have come together and agreed with my position. Don't be letting refugees that are a threat of waging jihad here, and yet President Obama thinks we're all un-American because we want to keep this country safe.
Well, Senator, this is only controversial with him, with much of the media elite, and his party, which has apparently given up on national security and national sovereignty. It's common sense. You have an FBI director who says, we can't vet these people. We don't have the data. He said it publicly. He said it openly. Now, who are we to trust? A politician like Obama who has an ideological agenda, or a guy who's not a politician, who's a civil servant, who is the FBI director? And if you're a senator, what are you supposed to do? Just blow off what the FBI director says?
Well, we're going to have a test to see what the senators want to do tomorrow. So there are two pieces of legislation I'm bringing up in the Senate tomorrow. The first is the Expatriate Terrorist Act, which is legislation I've introduced that says if any American citizen goes and joins ISIS and wages jihad against America, that he or she forfeits their U.S. citizenship. So we will not have ISIS terrorists coming to America with a U.S. passport in order to wage jihad and try to murder innocent Americans. And the second is legislation that I introduced today to bar refugees from countries like Syria, like Iraq, like Libya, where ISIS and al-Qaeda control large portions of land. And we're going to tee it up and see if the Democrats try to block this, see if the Democrats stand with Barack Obama in favor of bringing in tens of thousands of Syrian Muslim refugees, which I think is unbelievably foolish. And if the Democrats do block it, I have been pressing on Congress to pass this legislation. The majority leader should schedule it for a vote. We should get every senator on record. And any member of Congress that votes to bring in tens of thousands of Syrian Muslim refugees will bear direct responsibility for any acts of terror that come from that. We shouldn't be doing this. We should be standing and protecting the American people. And I'll tell you this, Mark, if I'm elected president, we will have a commander-in-chief whose first obligation is to keep this country safe.
And you know, Senator Cruz, he talked about what happened in Paris as being a setback. A setback. I mean, even the socialist president of France said, look, this is war. Everybody knows this is a war. The enemy says it's a war. Our enemy's enemies say it's a war. And this guy, he doesn't say it's a war. He won't define the enemy. He won't secure the border. He's hollowing out the military. We're bringing people in here who cannot be vetted, according to the FBI director. If I was thinking of a way to truly, truly harm this country, I would support all of Obama's policies.
Well, just hours before the Paris attack, President Obama says ISIS is contained. I'm sure that's cold comfort to the people of Paris. And you know, it really was striking when President Hollande was talking about responding to ISIS. He said the people of Europe, the leaders of Europe, will stand against ISIS and go against ISIS, and he omitted the United States. It was a stunning omission, but it wasn't surprising because you know, you think the last terrorist attack that was there, we saw the people, the leaders of the world marching with President Hollande, and nowhere to be found was Barack Obama, nowhere to be found was Hillary Clinton, nowhere to be found was John Kerry, and America has abandoned our allies. And right now the people of Europe are standing more vigorously against Islamic terrorism. They're willing to say the words. And yet President Obama, and strikingly in the Saturday Democratic debate, Hillary Clinton are completely unwilling even to acknowledge this is radical Islamic terrorism, because they won't acknowledge it. They will not fight it. They cannot fight it. And they certainly can't vet people if they won't even say the words to determine who's coming after us.
Well, in part, they're responsible for ISIS.
Exactly.
I don't give them all the blame, but their policies certainly helped create this monster.
That is exactly right. And, you know, listen, among these refugees, there are many people who are fleeing the horrible chaos that has arisen with the disastrous failures of the Obama-Clinton foreign policy. And among these Syrian refugees, these Syrian Muslim refugees, they should be resettled in the Middle East in majority Muslim countries, not brought here. And President Obama refuses to see that because he engages instead in this doublespeak. You know, Mark, I was at the prayer breakfast a number of months ago, and it was the day after, if you remember, ISIS lit the Jordanian pilot on fire. It was horrible. And President Obama gave a speech. It was a remarkable speech where he acted as an apologist for radical Islamic terrorists. He said, well, yes, there are some people in ISIS who are murdering people, but Jews and Christians have murdered people too. And he pointed to the Inquisition, and he pointed to the Crusades. Well, the last I checked, those ended hundreds of years ago, and I don't think it's asking too much for the president to stay within the current millennium. And when I say an apologist for radical Islamic terrorism, you know what an apologist is. It's someone that gives rationalizations, justifications, that explains it. And the argument about the Crusades and the Inquisitions is exactly the argument that ISIS uses and the terrorists uses, and this is coming out of the President of the United States drawing a moral equivalency, and it's fundamentally wrong. These people, ISIS is the face of evil, and we need a commander-in-chief that will stand up and defeat them.
All right, Senator, if people want to help you and support you, where do they go? I'm guessing tedcruz.com.
.org, very important.
Oh, I blew it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org, and I will say we have seen many, many times the incredible power of the great one, Denali's, Mark Levin surges that all throughout the campaign, people all across this country listen to you, have gone to tedcruz.org, and we're seeing really conservatives unite. You know, Mark, we've had over 450,000 contributions at tedcruz.org. It is incredible, the support of conservatives coming together, looking for a consistent conservative who's been the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Well, I can tell you're making progress because more and more of the candidates are targeting you. Have you noticed that? How's your back feel?
It is, you know, if they're not shooting at you, you ain't doing anything.
I know the feeling.
There is a reason Barack Obama 2 days in a row is attacking me directly, because who is leading the fight against his policies that are doing so much damage to this country? And you know, I sure would welcome seeing some other of the Republican candidates for president standing up and leading, but I'm going to lead regardless and stand with the American people. That's what I've done in the Senate, and that's what I'll do as president.
TedCruz.org, well, you are solid. There's absolutely no question that you are a solid, consistent conservative. I said that over and over and over again, and it's true, and I think that's why you have so much support. Senator, be safe. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless, Mark. Take care.
Take care, and I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.